Thank you for joining us at HBI. My name is John Lyons. I'm here with my friend Savannah Carlson and with Pastor Sasha. Today we want to answer a few questions, the first of which I will posit. What does it mean to be holy in reference to people? What does it mean for a people to be holy?
Yes, it's part of our lesson on the covenant, which has a pretty good text. This text is actually sometimes very confusing because it may be, especially in this day and age, in the context of the issues which we're dealing with, especially racism and stuff like this. This can be misread and misunderstood. So why don't we read it? It's Deuteronomy. Even there are many texts that are proposed for our lesson study, but I think this one is very important. If we understand this, that will mean a lot. So let's read Deuteronomy 7:6-9.
For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his people, his treasured possession. The Lord did not set his affection on you and choose you because you were more numerous than other peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But it was because the Lord loved you and kept the oath he swore to your ancestors that he brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the land of slavery, from the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments.
So, this says the holy. When you think of the word holy, just in your opinion, what would be the perception people have about when you are holy?
Biblical background leads me to say set apart. I think in popular culture there's this sense of it being possessing the nature of God to some degree.
I think that when someone says, "Oh, look at you, oh holy one," it's derogatory. Mm-hmm. Oh, you think you're better than the rest of us. You're holy,
Oh yeah. Sometimes, I remember those, days even when holy people were derogatorily used, toward Christians specifically, and yeah, it's interesting that you John, notice that the kind of our background, I don't know if every denomination, all other Christians believe it's set apart, but I know in our church, set apart. I don't know if you explain. Let's say you have somebody secular person, and you and he or she asks, oh, holy, what it is, and you say set apart. Is it going to make things better or worse?
I think it depends on how you explain it, but generally speaking, when you say things like set apart, it creates division rather than helping people see God in a unifying way. It makes it seem like he's picking and choosing the good people rather than seeing him as loving and gracious and merciful to all.
And I think that's where we need to make that distinction, because in the same way that people can be holy, objects can be holy. And when we look at the context of, maybe I'm getting ahead of things, but, if I have an instrument that is holy, that is set apart for a specific, religious rite or whatever, it has been chosen, hasn't it?
Aha, that's a very good statement, John. And it shows the issue right there. True. So in the context of ancient Israelite sanctuary, they had a holy place, most holy place. There were certain objects that were set apart, and even the tithe. The tithe is called holy, And it means don't touch it. In other words, back in those days, it was easy. Somebody grew 1,000 bushels of grain, put 100 barrels, set it apart, and said to the employees or the workers and the family members, in that room, I put it for Levites, don't touch this grain. It is holy. Do you see that this is not very well applicable to people?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Because, okay, we're taught, have you been, there are two different types of Christian theologies, like in traditional Catholic, not so much today, but Eastern Orthodox theology, someone who is holy is usually referred to someone who had been a hermit monk.
So it implies more connections to purity culture.
Yes, in the Orthodox Church, it is purity issue, for sure. And indeed, you're right, it was taken from the temple theology, temple ideas, because yes, there has to be a purity there. That's why you don't touch the altar, you don't touch this, and so forth. And it's drawn from there. But again, when we talk about, if I say in a Russian culture, I usually like to say, close your eyes, and I say the word holy, what do you associate it with? A Russian will tell me right away, oh, this is a hermit monk who sits somewhere in a cave, eats 2 loaves of bread a day and drinks water and prays. I can't be like this. Now, let me ask you this. In the Adventist background, what were you taught? Were you taught everybody is holy, or you need to achieve holiness? What were you taught?
I don't know that I was taught one way or the other in that sense of, are we holy or do we achieve it? Nature versus nurture kind of thing, maybe.
I think it's the latter, but not in that terminology. So that you achieve holiness, but we don't talk about it that way. We talk about it as you grow in your relationship with Christ, you become righteous, and through righteousness, you become holy.
Right. And the sanctification is a lifelong process.
Right.
Yes, sanctification. Yes. That's another aspect. But here, now, if sanctification is a process, and somebody comes in this context, like, I love to make this test on people. So I come to the pulpit and I say to the people, raise your hand if you think you're holy. Would you raise?
Probably not.
No.
Of course.
So I guess that answers the question. I don't believe it's a natural state. I believe it's we are made holy. That's what sanctification is.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So this is a very interesting cultural perceptions from different cultures. But you may be surprised if I tell you that in Hebrew, the word sanctification, which seems to be like making yourself better and better and better, in Hebrew, this word is actually used in a context of engagement. So how?
Oh, marital engagement.
Marital.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, like being involved? Like,
That's what I was thinking. So
That's
like
why I wanted to
repeated
say.
no.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to say betrothal.
yes,
Right.
yes.
Right.
But
Okay.
but we don't use the modern term betrothal. It's more biblical, right, language. But engagement, betrothal.
Marriage
So
context. Okay.
yeah. So in other words, when a young man stands in front of a young woman on his right knee or left knee, doesn't matter, and pulls out the ring and says, "Will you marry me?" Basically, in Hebrew, especially if she says, "Yes, I will," and takes the ring, in Hebrew, it means he just sanctified his wife.
She is set apart.
In that regard, see, in which way she is set apart.
See, it's interesting because you said set apart, but what popped into my head is he's saving her.
Yeah. That's basically in ancient Jewish customs and tradition, and we'll see it in the Bible in a moment, but in ancient Jewish customs, if a young fellow comes to the girl of his choice, has a piece of gold, like in the previous lesson, remember he had 15, he didn't even have a gold, he had 15 pieces of silver.
Right.
But when we have, remember how Rebecca and the Abraham's servant Eliezer, he prays, because he doesn't have her picture, obviously. He prays if this particular young woman comes out and offers to give drink to my camels. Can you imagine what needs to be done to give drink to one camel?
I mean, I'm assuming pulling the water from the well, filling up a bucket.
Well, I tell you one thing.
And they only drink like once every, 3 weeks or something? So it's probably a lot of water.
Correct. That's going to be about 40 buckets. So the trough is there, and poor girl needs to pull out of the well 40 buckets of water to satisfy the thirst of one camel.
And water is heavy. And he has multiple camels.
So that's what he was praying for, because usually, that's something. You see why it's God's sign. It's not just some young lady makes a little favor, which is just a sign of politeness. She just, carries. And so at the end of all of it, he pulls this big golden bracelet, which is pricey, and even another ring in the ear, the nose. And as she sees them, she immediately runs to her brother, because he's the head of the family. Probably father is ill or too old. And now they begin marital negotiations, because she immediately knows what this piece of gold means. And of course, she realized that this guy is a proxy. He tells, I come from my master. So basically, that's as soon as Rebecca took this piece of gold, she is holy. So she is, in this regard, yes, she is set apart. But the way how legally the rabbis even take it, which is kind of, we see it in the book of Deuteronomy, she is forbidden. Since that moment, she is forbidden to any other man except the one from whom she took that piece of gold. So if she chooses to even talk to another man, she needs to first return that piece of gold and then talk to another man.
Interesting.
So in this regard, she's set apart. And so what we're seeing here in this statement, you're holy people, it's not the character qualities. It is one quality which is actually required, actually two qualities: your personal response and your faithfulness to this response. And so let's take a look at some of the expressions that are used throughout the Old Testament in the books of the prophets. Let's take a look at Jeremiah 3:13.
Return, faithless people, declares the Lord, for I am your husband. I will choose you, one from a town and two from a clan, and bring you to Zion.
Yeah. You see this husband language. Take a look at this. The new, and it's kind of connected to the topic of the covenant directly. Jeremiah 31 and 32.
The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them, declares the Lord.
You see, it's very consistent. So this holiness, and guess what? Have you heard the expression, church is the bride of Christ?
Yes.
Yes.
That's how far it goes. So God's relationship with his people, he considers it as marital relationship, and he's like the husband here. So when we're talking about being holy, it's basically it's like God is kneeling on his knee, gives a piece of gold, and says, "Will you marry me?"
And we said yes, which is why we're holy.
Yes. So as soon as we say yes, that's right. So the beauty of it is the process of sanctification, it's not the process of achieving the status of holy. You are declared holy. We are declared holy as soon as we said yes to the proposal. Then we're holy. The rest is working on relationships, which is how we do in marriages, right?
So there's the holiness aspect and there's the chosenness aspect.
Oh, yes.
And then also the covenant aspect.
Yes. So that's the next thing. Of course, the biggest problem is, and again, I don't know how it's perceived, but I'll start asking about the perception. You probably heard many times the expression Jews chosen people.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
Well, when I read, in the Torah where it says, like we just did in Deuteronomy, holy people, I look back and I see, they were sanctified in a sense. They were set apart by God. For example, in Egypt, leading up to the 10th plague, they were instructed to put the blood of a lamb on their doorposts, right? And that was what set them apart. I really liked what you said about, I said set apart, but you said save. And I thought of an English word that fits both of those, and that's spare, right? They were spared from the avenging angel. Well, not avenging, but the angel of death.
For me, I would say when there's two things that come to mind. The first is why did God choose them? Okay, why are they chosen? And the second question is, are they still chosen?
Aha. These are two important questions. Yes, especially, very often, and I know it for a fact, I dealt, as a Jew, I dealt with two extremes in both ends. I don't know if I ever told this story. I was introduced to Christianity, not to Christianity, but to Jesus mainly, by a friend of mine who was actually a member of for a while, a member of a very conservative traditional Pentecostal congregation. And so one day he decided to take me to where they had their church, which was in an apartment building. It was, on a 10th or 11th floor of the big high rise in Kiev. And they just had two large apartments, like 3-bedroom apartments, knocked the wall, and they joined together and built the big meeting hall. And it was actually the apartment belonging to one of the elders. That's how they did it, bless his heart. So when we arrived, there was maybe 40 or 50 people in this facility. And my friend, right away, I was like 19. No, I was 19. And he right away kind of stood up and he said, brothers and sisters, I want to introduce brother Sasha to you. He's Jewish. I heard I saw such a commotion. People were coming to me and they looked at me with such reverence, and they wanted to touch me like I was a holy object. And I felt so uncomfortable.
I can imagine.
I wanted to kind of fall through all the 11 floors down, because there was center of very, very unhealthy attention, I would say. And then I asked them, why are you like this to me? And they say, brother, you are the chosen. Oh boy. So it's like, anyway, I tell you one thing, as a Jew, Jews don't want such an unhealthy attention. Jews don't want this attention. But then there was another extreme, and another extreme is like, God used to choose Jews, but no longer anymore. And that's kind of like, why? Oh, because they killed Christ. So God now cursed them. And in fact, in Catholic Church, starting from the time of Augustine, which is the 5th century, a little bit before Catholic Church, but Augustine is considered the father of Catholic theology. So since the time of Augustine, and then in Catholic Church, all the way through centuries until 1962, there was a special doctrine of Jews, about the Jews specifically, as being accursed by God. So you have these two extremes about this.
Yeah.
Both of which are non-biblical.
No. First of all, very interesting point that you, John, mentioned when you start talking about chosenness, and that is, did God choose back then? And it was a big, I deal with this all the time because many, especially Adventists, have this stereotype that back in Old Testament, God chose people only by their ethnicity, Jewish or Israelite. Now it's the church. But that's wrong.
It is
right,
wrong.
it is. I mean, Abraham was none of those things.
Abraham, yes, for sure.
Rahab.
Yes, Rahab, correct. But we have right there in the Exodus. Take a look at Exodus chapter 12, 37 and 38.
Okay. Exodus chapter 12, verses 37 and 38. The Israelites journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth. There were about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. Many other people went up with them, and also large droves of livestock, both flocks and herds.
So they count 600,000 men. But is this only the direct descendants of the children of Jacob?
Well, we just saw it was the sons of Israel and many others. And my version actually says a mixed multitude.
Yes. So right there. So I don't prefer to use the Abraham and Noah. He's from the perspective, because Israel did not exist at all back then. And by the way, Abraham is called the first Hebrew.
Right.
Which is a totally different idea. Let's not discuss it. But here it's very clear. It says Israelites, right? And Israelites consist
of the sons of Jacob
plus
Many other people.
many other people. Joshua and Caleb, remember them?
Yeah.
Joshua from the tribe of Manasseh. What do you remember about Caleb? He was adopted into the tribe of Judah, but he is Keynesian. He is not. So these two were the ones who survived and went into the promised land. One is Israelite, the other is not Israelite.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Manasseh Joseph's son?
Manasseh was the grandson of Jacob, for sure, Joseph's son.
Which
correct.
means he was a mix anyway, because his mother was Egyptian.
Correct, absolutely. So from the get-go, yeah, that's absolutely right. From the get-go, the idea that, before God chose by nationality or the ethnic origin, that's wrong. God never done it.
He started the nation.
Correct. He chose people because he wanted to, because he loved them, regardless of background.
Yeah. The question is, how did these other people decide to come with Israelites? It says here they left, and and there were quite a few others besides them. Take a look at a very interesting statements here in the same chapter of Exodus, verse 43, particularly. Yeah, verse 43.
The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "These are the regulations for the Passover meal. No foreigner may eat it."
Okay. So the Passover is referring to the lamb, which they were supposed to eat. So if you're a foreigner, you can't eat it. Oops. Discrimination. Not really. Let's read verse 48. What do you do if you happen to be a foreigner? Verse 48 and 49.
A foreigner residing among you who wants to celebrate the Lord's Passover must have all the males in his household circumcised. Then he may take part like one born in the land. No uncircumcised male may eat it. The same law applies both to the native born and to the foreigner residing among you.
So somebody wants to eat the Passover lamb, just circumcise your males and you'll be equal. That was the procedure. And by the way, whom does lamb symbolize?
Jesus.
Christ.
Yeah, so somebody wants to be a part of the community, which, it's not like. So in other words, God chooses, but we also choose.
Yeah, because we see consistently throughout the Bible that Israel turns away from God, but we also see consistently that people wanted to be a part of God's kingdom and have that relationship with him. And the circumcision is an outward sign of that acceptance.
Oh yeah. In other words, the young man going back to the holiness, the young man looks at this young woman, really likes her, gives that, piece of gold, but she needs to love back.
Yeah, she
otherwise,
has to say yes.
yeah, and it has to be return, feelings. Otherwise, it's not gonna. The marriage isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
So this here is, this foreigner wants to be a part of that community. Yeah, welcome. It's no selected, exclusive club. You don't have to pay any exuberant fee and be, some kind of Ivy League, Schmivy League, whatever. Just you got to circumcise your boys, and you're in there. Eat the Passover lamb. As soon as you ate the Passover lamb, now you're one of them. Now you're Israelite. You're part of God's people. So there's never God is not using any favoritism. The word chosen, in fact, that's important. See what the purpose of being chosen, because it's not just being favorite here, but it's for a very specific purpose. And it says here in the book of Exodus, where 19, it says very clear what does it actually mean. Verse 5 and verse 6.
Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to Israel.
You see, holy nations we described, basically chosen is the priesthood. So Israelites were chosen to be the priesthood, and in a sense that the main role of the priest is to teach the world about the revelation of God. So nothing changed today when we are declared the priesthood of Christ, right? So now no much changes here. The only thing which changes is our Passover lamb is Jesus, who crucified for us. That's the change.
And we now have the Lord's Supper rather than the Passover observance.
Yeah, in this sense.
Very good. Thank you for answering these questions. We hope you have enjoyed learning with us. Be sure to like, subscribe, share if you know someone who would be blessed by this, and we'll see you next time.